it's the stay-at-home sour that Brad came up with, which I'm actually going to try. I'm not a bourbon or whiskey fan. And Brad, it probably has something to do with the fact, and this is probably too much information, but when I was 18 years old, I got sick on SoCo. That's why I asked you about SoCo. So,
Well, that's not. Well, we're good. That's not whiskey. We're
yeah,
good.
I know. It just, I can still sort of smell it though. But
Oh.
anyway, Mary, what did you think of this drink?
We thought it was great. We made it with some Costco whiskey, great price, big bottle. It was delicious.
What'd you think of the maple syrup?
It was a great option for sweetness.
Nice. And Brad, what's the creme de coco? What would that do to change it a little bit?
Was that to me?
Yes.
Question?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I somehow clicked off the screen for a second. So the cool thing about the creme de coco is I love the reason I love whiskey is because you always usually have those like chocolates, vanillas, caramels. So a lot of times you can put some sweetness to it, especially if you're newer into whiskey, to add like the maple syrup or the cocoa. And you don't need a lot of it, but it just brings in those subtle hints. The whiskey will power through almost anything that you add to it unless you're just burying it in Coke, right? So that cocoa just adds those hints. And when you have the orange, if you ever had like chocolate oranges, you kind of just get that whole flavor profile going. You definitely want to have the acid to it. It's just a good little extra you can add to it to add some sweetness to it in a sense.
All right. So if any of you decide to make this, and I think I'm going to try it this weekend, be sure to take a picture of it and post it on Facebook and let us know what you think about it, what you think about the drink and stuff. Nikki, I think you should do that.
Well, I made an improvised version of it because I didn't have everything, but I did just go and buy some bourbon or whiskey, a couple different kinds, because I'm normally not one to drink bourbon or whiskey. And so I was like, oh, I could do that with the sour, because I never thought about mixing it with that because I only think of having it like Jack and Coke or, something like that, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else?
I'll tell you guys a secret too.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you're there.
So a quick secret: when any cocktail you make, and something cool you can do with a whiskey sour too. If you order it in a restaurant, just pre-warned. There's two ways they make it. The one way is kind of the ingredients we have here. The other way they use egg white. I didn't put egg white in there. It scares a lot of people because you're not cooking it, obviously. But if you add egg white and you shake it, it really makes it super creamy and kind of frothy because you're actually shaking up that egg white in it. If you order it at a restaurant, you'll see them a lot served. See if I got one here. Thought I did. If you know what a coupe glass is.
I taught him about egg white cocktails last time, Brad.
Oh, see? Liz knows all about it.
Yes.
So,
I wasn't here.
but the whiskey sour is made a lot with that, and it adds a lot of creaminess to it. If you're okay with egg white in your cocktail, it's delicious. The other trick and I thought about making it in front of you guys, but it sounds like most of you already made it. So the biggest trick in cocktails, and the easiest way to tell the difference in how this works is when you make a margarita. But the number one issue when people make cocktails is they don't use the ice right. That sounds strange because it's so simple. But on a whiskey sour, if you really shake it good, if you've ever been to Mission Taco and you see those people just going nuts, that does something. And you're breaking up those little ice particles in there, and it'll change the whole drink. So next time you're at home and you're making margaritas, make a margarita and don't shake it, and then make a margarita and shake it. And I promise you, the margarita that you shake, 2 times better. I tell all that to my friends, and every time people are like, make a cocktail, I'm like, I'm a margarita drinker. Greatest margarita ever. And the only thing I do different is shake it. So you make sure you use your ice correctly. There you go. I see it there.
Liz just wants you to know, after our first one, I bought one of those Boston shaker things. I went on Amazon and bought one. So, yes. Figured that was a good thing to have for this summer, especially. All right, so now we're to some Q&A. And I know we've been asking a lot. Oh, Mary said those are hot tips. Brad, good tips. Nice tips.
Hot tips.
Hot tips.
Hot cold tips. Hot
yes.
Cold tips.
We may post those tomorrow, our hot tips for tomorrow. Any questions for Brad or Liz on anything, guys. I know I'm really, really so happy that you guys joined us. I know the weather is phenomenal, which I have a feeling probably hindered our attendance this evening because I can tell you I'm looking forward to getting outside myself because it is really, really nice outside. But thank you very much for joining us. But if you have any questions, please is the time to ask right now. Any questions?
What are some other, like, if you're new to the bourbon and whiskey, like cocktails that are, like you said, your wife never drank the bourbon or whiskey.
Sure.
Like, what were some cocktails that eased her into it?
Yeah, so the easiest thing to remember with cocktails, no matter what, whether it's tequila, bourbon, or whatever, is most cocktails break down to three things, and that's your base spirit, your sour, right? So it's either lemon, lime, um, you know, orange, whatever, usually, and that's why there's always juices in cocktails. And then you've got your sweetness. So like on this one, we used maple syrup, but you could use bar syrup. So what I always tell everyone is if you're an orange, if you love oranges, find cocktails that fit that profile. Just search like orange whiskey cocktails, and you'll kind of slowly get into it. But most of them all break down. If you really look at it, they break down to three ingredients. The thing to watch out for when you're new to whiskey, and I see this all the time, is people go out into the bars, and everyone right now is going to the old school drinks, which are Manhattans and old fashions. And in those drinks, there's a lot of bitters. So it's Camparis and just Peychaud's, little bitters and things like that. If you're not a whiskey drinker, those almost will turn you off more because those bitters are strong. The more you get into it, and like you want to drink things like Negronis, or if you're a gin drinker, but those are very off-putting at first. So I would stick to juice drinks with whiskey, or things that have sweeteners in them. Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of like a set cocktail that makes sense, but just ease into it. Sodas work too. I always tell people, like my buddy lives in Canada, and he's like, I want to get into whiskey. What should I drink? And I was like, Crown and Coke, and slowly take out the Coke, because what you're doing is you're just building your palate to get used to more and more whiskey. And I tell you this too, no matter what you do, the first taste of whiskey, if you're drinking them straight, it's gonna burn. It's still, to me, to this day, the first time you rinse your palate with tequila or whiskey or anything, every tasting I do, I'm like, just get it out of the way. Your palate's not used to this right now. You just brushed your teeth or you had a salad. We got to get past that first taste, and then you slowly lead into it. So start with a cocktail and then slowly start drinking stronger whiskeys or bourbons as you move forward.
Yeah, Nikki, I would recommend like maybe a flavored whiskey to start, like Jack Daniel's
Not
honey,
Fireball.
American honey, something like that. And obviously any like a bourbon and ginger ale or Sprite or something like that usually is an easy way to enter into it. And like Brad said, just start weaning off the soda.
Excellent. Any other questions? I'm going
I
to
think
share
there was one in the chat box. What's a good ratio of sugar to make simple syrup?
Oh, I've never made my own. I don't know. Here's what I tell a lot of people when it comes to making ingredients. You can buy it in the bar for a lot less, or in the stores now for a lot less hassle. So like at Schnucks, they sell bar syrup now, or simple syrup in a little 375 jug. Save yourself the hassle. It's much cleaner, and it's like $6. They're gonna do it right. Same with what's that?
It was like 3. That I bought it last time
$3.
for the last mixology. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people. I'm not a mixologist. I like to make cocktails, but I don't like to overthink them. When you're looking for margarita mixes and sugars and things like that, I promise you the people that make them got it pretty much figured out. So don't overthink it unless you really want to geek out on it. You can get it probably cheaper, much less hassle in a store.
And then there was a question on favorite cocktail bar in St. Louis, Blood and Sand, Taste, Planter's House, somewhere else. If you're looking for a good bourbon drink, I love Retreat. They make some awesome cocktails, and their burgers are fantastic, and good prices on it. So that's my fave. Brad, what's yours?
My favorite's Fraser's downtown by the brewery.
Wow.
Good
Yeah.
people, Terry's the bartender. He's there 90% of the time. Good dude. Makes some great drinks. Good little spot.
Nice. Anybody else out there have a favorite place to go for a cocktail?
Oh, I have another tip I just thought of as you're getting into bourbon. On a drink like the whiskey sour, so you're going to see the garnishes are like an orange and a cherry. So we all know that first drink hits pretty hard. So what I always tell someone, the garnish, like if it's an orange peel like this, instead of just throwing it in the glass where it does nothing, rub it on the rim of the glass, because your first drink, you're going to get a lot more citrus, and it lets you ease into the cocktail. So you'll see bartenders do that a lot, and there's a reason for that. It's so that that first sip, you're getting a little less of the whiskey or the cocktail, and you're getting a little more fruit. And then the next time you go back to it, you're starting to get more into the whiskey, and your palate's ready for it.
Nice.
Hot tip. Hot tip.
That's another hot tip. We're going to have to put these hot tips tomorrow. Caitlin put, we live next door to the Whiskey Ring on Cherokee. Is that misleading or are they good?
Good bar. I like Whiskey Ring.
Okay,
For
good.
sure.
Good. Excellent. All right. Well, I just put a slide up that says mark your calendars because we're going to be doing this again July 29th. Hopefully it's like 105 degrees out, so people will want to stay inside in air conditioning. But again, I just wanted to thank all of you very much for taking your time and enjoying us today. And if we could all give Brad a round of applause because I think he was phenomenal. And Brad, seriously, we're going to post those hot tips because those were hot tips, very hot tips.
Hot tips.
And thank you very much for joining us, both you and Liz. And we look forward, yes, to July 29th. And in the meantime, everybody stay safe and healthy, and we will see you soon, okay?
Yeah, and just one last little plug. For those of you that come to the wine opener, we're thinking about changing up the wine opener to more of a whiskey event. So start getting into whiskey now because we're going to have a fun, maybe bourbon and bubbles type event.
Amen.
Ooh.
All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Get outside when it's nice and cool. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, guys.